Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well this morning. My name is Luis Iglesias, and I'm a team manager with the California Department of Rehabilitation. And on this meeting, I'll present the other team managers in our district. We're located here in the Van Nuys Foothill District office. So I'll introduce Emma Chicada.
Good morning, everyone. A pleasure to be here.
And then I have my other colleague, Bronwyn Rubin. She's also in this meeting.
Hi, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Look forward to presenting to you.
So we're going to be presenting the general services of Department of Rehabilitation and the services that we provide. So we'll get started. Okay. So Department of Rehabilitation, our mission, we're California Department of Rehabilitation. We work in partnership with consumers and other stakeholders in providing services and advocacy in pursuit of employment, independent living, and equality for individuals with disabilities. So at DOR, it is our fundamental belief that individuals with disabilities can be fully integrated and highly productive community members, employees, and colleagues. So in order to be eligible for services, the Department of Rehabilitation the consumer will meet with a vocational rehabilitation counselor, and there are criteria in order to make someone eligible for services. The first one is they must have a physical or mental impairment. Number two, they must have some sort of like barriers to employment if they're having difficulty securing employment due to any type of behavior or some sort of like health that they experience. They will also be eligible for services. The third, the individual must benefit from vocational rehabilitation services in order to prepare for, enter, engage in, or retain gainful employment consistent with the individual's strengths, resources, priorities, concerns, abilities, interests, and their informed choice. And lastly, the individual must be capable of being able to achieve employment.
The VR process, this is kind of how it looks. There's an application, and then once you complete the application, you will meet with a counselor who will determine eligibility, talk to you about where your barriers to employment are, what issues or concerns you have with that are preventing you from becoming employed. And through the skilled interview process, we can determine eligibility same day. You will then be scheduled a next meeting to discuss plan development for assessing and planning for what your vocational goal is. We talk about the labor market. We discuss, employment services. If you're going to school, how is that going to lead to an employment goal? Then from the information gathered, the counselor will then develop a plan for employment. It will then be sent to you to review, and if there's any changes or corrections, then a finalized plan is completed and signed. And then once the signed plan is done, we can authorize for services. And then the services will include, it can include a transportation allowance, a training, job coaching, supported employment services. Once you get employed, then we will follow you, and then we will close you successfully, transitioning you back to Regional Center for ongoing job coaching if that is what's required.
And if I may just add
Mhm.
on a little bit to that in terms of closing the record, if it's not a regional center client and it's just someone that comes through to us for services, we'll keep the record open for 90 days. So within that 3 months, we will follow up with you to check in, make sure everything is going well, you're successful in your role, you're happy with it, and then towards the 90-day mark, we will process closure. Thank you, Bronwyn.
Thank you. Um, And then the application, what does it look like? Or how can you apply? So prospective applicants can apply by calling their local DOR office. They can walk into any of the local DOR offices. We have offices throughout the state. We have offices in the San Fernando Valley that are in Van Nuys, Santa Clarita, Glendale, Pasadena, and the Antelope Valley, located in the Lancaster area. Or you can apply online. And we have the link here on the slide that you can apply online. Once you apply, a counselor on duty will speak with the applicant. They'll provide the any of additional application forms to be completed and set up an initial intake appointment. Then the council will give the applicant an orientation about DOR services, how we can assist them in reaching their employment goal, and any other pertinent information. If they're applying for state jobs or federal jobs, we can discuss a LEAP certificate or a Schedule A. Okay. Assessing and planning. So, part of our job is to really discuss with the applicant or the consumer, if they're eligible, what their career planning is. We want to explore certain options. We want to explore the top 25 labor market index. And what that means is there's a top 25 job vocational goals that if you got trained, you can become employed in a relatively short amount of time. We want to make sure that we are setting up the consumer for success and employment. We may discuss an interest assessment and analyze that. What are your skills, interests, abilities? We may have the consumer do some research to the steps, what's required for the job, what's educational requirements, internships, etc., so that we can get the right vocational goal for the consumer. Then we will discuss the results with the consumer and initiate a joint planning meeting to develop their plan for employment. And the individual plan for employment these are kind of an overview. As I stated before, the consumer will meet with the counselor for plan development, and it can be done also during the initial intake process. Sometimes individuals come in and they know exactly what they want to do. But if they don't, we want to really make sure that we can determine a realistic vocational goal that will lead to a successful employment. And sometimes that could be a benchmark plan where initially, maybe their long-term goal is something else, but it's going to take so many steps to get there. So let's do an initial plan and get you employed, get you successful closure, make sure you have the skills necessary, and then we can always, revise the plan as needed. And then the consumer and the DOR council will review, agree, and sign the IPE. And once the IPE, which is the individual plan for employment, is done, signed, then DOR services can begin.
And if I may, I'm sorry, Luis.
Go ahead, Amufa.
I was just going to chime in a little bit more about the IPE. The last part that Bronwyn mentioned about services with DOR start after the IPE is signed. So we will have situations where maybe someone has started a program prior to coming to DOR. We're not able to backdate or pay for services that they may have been participating prior to coming to DOR. The clock starts when the IPE is signed, so we can't backtrack to anything prior. Sometimes we'll get questions. I have a loan. Can the DOR help me pay for a loan that I obtained a couple of years ago? As long as this was prior to coming to DOR and the IPE has not been signed, we're not able to assist with that. So just wanted to put that clarity in as well.
And I just wanted to add, a lot of times, a lot of our consumers do not know exactly what they want to do, or they feel that after they sign their plan, they have to stick to their employment goal. So in a situation like this, the counselor is able to revise the plan as many times. Obviously, they have to discuss with the consumer, okay, what is the reason why you want to change the plan? Maybe the first initial plan is not working out, we want to try a second plan or a second alternative. So the consumer and the counselor is able to revise a plan to meet the consumer's need. The plan is developed person-centered. We're here to meet the consumer's skills and abilities, and we want to see them be successful.
Thank you. Do you want to take this, Emifa?
Yeah. So over here we have our tools and resources. So in addition to everything that Bronwyn has said, on here we have vocational counseling and guidance, and that is a broad terminology for the process when we meet with you from the very first time in getting to know you, doing the intake process, doing the IPE development. Career assessment would be applicable even when you're doing training, because the goal of DOR is, to assist consumers with physical and mental disabilities to gain employment. So if you are with DOR, if you come into DOR for training, part of the IPE goal is for an employment goal, right? So the career assessment is embedded in that. And then, of course, we have consumers that come in and they're just looking for employment. So we would have an assessment to discuss their employment goals that they're interested in. So that falls under career assessment. Referrals and assistance to get services from other agencies. This is very crucial to us because in as much as we are a big organization, there's just certain services that we do not provide. And so when we do get inquiries such as, do you provide homeless services, right? So in the office, we have 3 units in our Van Nuys district office. We have resources that we share among each other. So if a consumer does ask us for something such as homeless or how do I get this paid, etc., we're able to provide that resource and refer them to the appropriate department or agency that can assist them. Career education and training, that would fall under the training component that I spoke to earlier, where consumers come in, they're students, they're seeking DOR's assistance to go back to school, to be able to get a degree, whether it is in a community college, a 4-year college to gain a bachelor's degree, an AA degree, a master's degree. So that falls under career education and training. Occupational license, occupational licenses, tools, equipment, books, and supplies. So occupational licenses would be something like a barbering, trade schools, equipment, books, supplies, that is appropriate when someone is going to school. They need their textbook and supplies. We provide that assistance as well. Bronwyn touched a bit earlier on transportation assistance and clothing support. We provide transportation if a student is going to school. We provide the student rate. We also provide clothing support, particularly when a consumer finishes training and they are transitioning for employment services. They're seeking for a job, or we have a consumer coming in that is not in training, but they're here at DOR to find employment. So we will assist them with an interview clothing support so that they can look, appropriate for the interview. Regarding job search, interview skills, and job placement services, we have a partnership with job developers. We have various job developers. A few examples would be Employment Means Success, New Horizons, etc. So we have a partnership with them. When we have consumers coming in for employment services, we refer them to our job developer. The job developer will meet with them for an intake process, understand their dynamics, what employment outcome they want to achieve, and then help them with interviewing skills, help them with their resumes, cover letters, and then of course they'll send them referrals for job links so that they can apply for the jobs and gain that employment. Rehabilitation assistive technology. Can you scroll down, or is it the last one?
Is the last one.
Okay. Please go on to the next slide.
I just wanted to just add, when it comes for Department of Rehabilitation to sponsor support for an associate degree, bachelor's, or master's, we have to look at what is the employment goal of the consumer. What is it that they want to pursue? What type of job do they want? And whether or not a bachelor's or a master's degree is required. If it is, then DOR will be able to support consumer in getting that training support from DOR. And also, we do have in-house business specialists in the department that we're able to refer consumers to, and they will be able to meet with the consumers one-on-one or virtual as well.
Thank you for that, Luis. I think my only other addition regarding the bachelor's degree and master's degree is that we always encourage public school options. So that's definitely preferred. As a state agency, we're always going to go with comparable benefits. So we always encourage students to, if the program is available at a public school, to choose that for maximum support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think she said masters. I missed it.
Sorry?
It's Department of Rehabilitation. It's in Van Nuys.
Are you asking a question, or I can hardly hear? Should I continue?
Oh, I'm not gonna ask. No, she said don't interrupt during the. Oh,
Go ahead, Amifa.
Okay. Customized service delivery, we tailor our services to each person individually to ensure a greater chance for success. So again, as Luis Iglesias mentioned, it's person-centered, right? So in your plan may be written slightly different for someone else. As an example, if let's say that a consumer came in, they want to do truck driving. One consumer can finish the truck driving in 3 weeks. Another consumer, it may take them 3 months. So we really try to customize and really meet the person at where they're at, to be able to support them. Everyone has a different disability, and we're here to support them to the best of our ability to help them go through that process and gain employment. And of course, our ultimate goal is for the consumers that we serve at Department of Rehabilitation with physical and mental disabilities to have a higher quality of life, to have the same opportunities as everyone else, to not only come in, be able to gain the training that you need, to be able to gain the support that you need through the job developers or the business specialist, but to eventually get employed, be independent, and be equal as everyone else.
So the employment success and outcome. So in order for us to be able to close out a consumer's case successful, we have to, the VR services team needs to be a contribution to their outcome. We have to identify that the consumer is placed into the right job, the right workplace, follow up with them, and ensuring that they've successfully been employed for 90 days. The consumer does not need any additional services or support. And lastly, the consumer and counselor agree to close the VR case successfully. And we may have some cases, some situations where for whatever reason may be, due to consumers' health, they need additional support that DOR is not able to provide, or they're not employment ready, then we may close out the case as not successful, well, which is fine. That's not a barrier. And once they are ready, they are welcome to reapply at any time. So it's not like it's a one-time case only that they're able to apply for services. They're able to apply as many times.
and even after the case is closed. So let's say that a consumer comes in, they've gone through the process, they've obtained employment, and we close them after 90 days. Sometimes life happens. I actually have one of that right now. I closed a case successfully, but the consumer just reached out a couple of weeks ago, letting me know that they lost their job and they're reapplying for services for employment services. So even if the case is closed and in the future something happens, consumers are always welcome to reapply for services. And with that being said, thank you so much. On the screen is our contact information. As I mentioned earlier, we are in Van Nuys. We're at the district office. We have 3 teams. And the contact information that you're seeing on the screen is the contact names of, the 3 of us that presented. But we're all one happy family at the Van Nuys district office. So please feel free to reach out to any of us and we'll be more than happy to to connect with you and provide any information needed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Once again, my name is Lorenzo. I'm with the Department of Rehabilitation, and I work with the Youth Services program with Department of Rehab. So, okay, so Jesus, okay, here we go. So, exploring your potential. Okay, the Department of Rehab provides valuable skills to propel you on a path towards an independent and successful future. If you are a student from the ages 16 to 21 with an individualized education program, IEP, or a 504 plan or disability, DOR Student Services can provide job exploration counseling and preparation to ensure you receive the skills and knowledge necessary to reach your education, career, and life goals. So I always like to tell the students versus my coworkers, I always say the youth services, we're the program, we don't have any money. So I always say the money is with the adult services, and pretty much with the youth services, it's more so of group sessions and discussions. So the next one would be, all right, so the 5 services that we provide is job exploration counseling, post-secondary counseling, workplace readiness training, self-advocacy, and work-based learning experience. Each one of so the first one here is a job exploration counseling. So these are some of the services that are provided during our group sessions with the students. So job exploration counseling offers ways to learn about the different kinds of jobs and which ones are best for the strengths and interests. So with the students, I work with them. Sometimes I do group sessions. I also do individual sessions with them. We have group sessions where we learn about career pathways in the local area, learn what jobs lead to better jobs, find out what jobs pay good wages. So a lot of these students, they're unfamiliar. Say they might want to be a teacher. They have no idea what a teacher makes. So I do the research for that information and provide them that information. Some of the other services we discuss different kinds of work, including employment, supported employment, and traditional employment. Basically, it's just we try to assist the student to find the best job that is a fit for them. The second one would be work-based and learning experience. This offers a variety of ways to connect with local professionals and get real-world work experience. So that can consist of internships, volunteer services. We provide a work experience. We try to tailor the work experience towards the student career choice. So I have a few students that want to be nurses, or RNs or something like that. I have a work experience where I have them working, a few of them working at Kaiser Permanente, the one over here in Canoga, off the 101. And so we can offer up to 100 hours, up to 300 hours of work experience. And they just need to learn the duties. I network with FCCC, and usually the pay range is $16.01. One thing about the work experiences, they can't go over $4,999. So once they hit that max, they're no longer eligible for a work experience. Okay. The next one is number 3 would be post-secondary counseling. So this helps you learn about the different educational programs available and resources to support your educational success. So with this, I work with the students on, they need to speak with the student services center at whatever school they're planning on attending. They might have a question of, they want to go to a large school or a medium-sized school. They might want to go to an HBC. I don't know if anybody's familiar with an HBC, but that might be a historical Black college. So I do that research for them, as far as if they selecting a major. I give them information on what that major, the details of that major and what was consistent being getting in that major. Also assist them with FAFSA. So one thing before they can transition over to adult services, they would need to complete the FAFSA application. So whatever FAFSA doesn't pay, Department of Rehab will pay the difference. So that's mandatory. We preach that to each individual that's signing up with DOR if they're trying, if we're gonna sponsor them for school. Pretty much with the school, I also let them know, regarding enrolling in school. They can never be denied. If a class is too full, they can never be denied a class. So a lot of students don't know that. So I, pass that information along to them. Number 4 would be workplace readiness training. This is basically where I work with the students. We provide groups, say they need resume development. I do mock interviews with them. Pretty much find out, work on their social skills. Some of them might not have emails. I help assist them create an email, and even as simple as changing their voice message on their cell phone. Some of these students have some wild voice messages. So I let them know, you're becoming an adult. You need to have a more professional voice message for your cell phone. The last one would be the self-advocacy training. So basically, with self-advocacy, we help build leadership skills, gain confidence, and professional environment, and understand what you need to succeed in the workplace. So we have groups on, the do's and don'ts of how to behave at work, dress attire, understanding their rights. One thing that I've always the years I've been working in Department of Rehab, the saddest thing is for individual comes into the office saying they've been not laid off, but was fired or dismissed from a job. Either they were late or something like that, and then to find out it might be medication. They might make them sleep. And I said, you could ask for an adjustment, or you could ask for some type of accommodation. I didn't know. So we just let the student, we inform the student of their rights, as far as workplace and as well as in school, their rights. And these services, like I say, can go on to 22 up until the 22nd birthday, even though we have 16 to 21, but it's their actual 22nd birthday. And they're no longer for the student services. They have to maintain and be in school though. So I have some students that are in the Promise program, and so they might not want to use adult services right now because they're in the Promise. School is taken care of, but they stay in the youth services because they might want to do a work experience. So it's all type of reasons why students stay in the youth services up until age 22. And that's pretty much it. Any questions? Feel free to ask. And my scratch out Miss Reyes' name, but my name's Lorenzo, and that's the front desk number. You can always ask for me. Oh, the application for youth services is only a one-page application. We have this the teacher signs off if the student has a disability, and if somebody walks through the door, it's still a one-page application. They would just need to bring their IEP or some type of proof disability for the services.
So I'm just going to go really quick about the work incentive planning that we do offer at DOR for our consumers. So what can DOR WIPs, which is work incentive planners do for our SSI or SSDI consumers? We go over how employment is going to impact their cash and health benefits when they do find employment. We provide options, recommendations, and appropriate work incentives. Every consumer is going to have their own work incentives based on what benefits they do receive. We're going to explain how those work incentives work as they find employment and as they progress with their employment. We're going to guide them and assist them with wage reporting and benefit management. Again, reporting their wages is super important, so we do follow up with them as much as we can so they don't have any overpayment. And then we provide them tools to help them and their families manage their benefits. Again, we assist them if they do have a family member that usually helps them with their benefits. I'll go over that with them just so they are all in the same knowledge or aware of all their benefits. And there's no misinformation from the Social Security. And we're going to motivate both students and adults to achieve competitive integrative employment and gain substantial gainful activity level employment, resulting in self-sufficiency. The eligibility criteria for WIP services with us would be that they're all receiving Social Security SSI or SSDI. They do intend to obtain competitive employment in an integrated setting above SGA or substantial gainful activity level. And they're ready to receive services from me. Sometimes I know they're not ready there. They're not ready to find employment. They still have to go to school, any kind of training. So we do want to wait until they're really ready to find employment, just so we don't explain it too early in their process. We'll go over some myths among, the beneficiaries. If they go back to work, are they going to lose their cash benefits? Again, every consumer gets different benefits. So we will go over that with them and explain to them based on their situation and if they will lose Medicare or Medi-Cal. Again, every consumer is different. As we mentioned before, we will assess their case and see what works for them and what they have available. And if their disability worsens, can they go back to work? Of course, that is the fear. So we do want to be able to explain to them and reassure them of all their incentives they have. Ticket to work. Ticket to work. It is a voluntarily work incentive that the Social Security offers for all SSI, SSDI beneficiaries. And these are for anyone between 18 and 64 that want to go back to work. And while you're using the ticket to work, they are excused from medical continuing disability reviews, CDRs, as long as they are actively participating with DOR. There is a ticket to work helpline that is available for anyone that wants to participate. They will just have to call and make sure they let them know they want to participate, so DOR can assign the ticket for us. Reporting of wages, the most important thing, it is visiting your local Social Security based on their zip code. There is a phone line. There is a My Social Security account you can create on their website, secure. They do have to verify your identity. or for SSI only, they can report it through an app on their smartphone. Here's my contact information. I am in the Venice location. I'm serving all of our Venice consumers. And here's my phone number, my email.
My name is Marcel Becker. I'm a regional business specialist. I work out of the Glendale Burbank office, and I'll hand it over to Diana.
Good morning again. This is Diana Ling, one that does not know how to share screen on Zoom. It will go down in history. No, I'm joking. I'm in Pasadena. Marcel and I cover more than just our nearby offices, but throughout the greater Los Angeles and throughout the state. So we want to share with you today on-the-job training, OJT. You hear it over and over. So the first information I want to share with you is an overview. So what is an OJT? It is a paid training that a consumer of ours can participate if they have a IPE with us, and they will get paid while they're being trained. So what is an OJT? It is a non-binding three-way agreement among the consumer, a qualified business, we'll talk about what that is, or trainer, and a DOR counselor. So DOR funding will cover and reimburse the business or trainer to offset training costs incurred while during the training for the consumer. And essentially the business can pay consumer wages during the training, and then on the back end, we reimburse them essentially. And the end goal is the consumer or trainee will remain on the job upon successful completion of the training. Okay, next. So OJT overview continued. This is a job placement tool that we use heavily, somewhat. Hiring incentive, and it again offsets training costs, and it is a method for DOR to do outreach. And so therefore, you know, it is a good tool basically for a business who are on the fence, not sure about a consumer, as it basically a free trial period that they can get reimbursed on. So nothing to lose for them. So let's look into what is a qualified business or trainer. So this person or business has to have a federal tax ID, or they can use their individual tax identification ID, or if it's a very small business, maybe the business owner, maybe one or two other people on the team, then they can use the owner's social security number. And the information collected will be in a form we'll talk about shortly. And this all has to be verified through accounting department. And it goes up the chain of command pretty high up to Sacramento eventually. So we will look at OJT process step by step. Part 1, OJT opportunity and pre-screen. Part 2, OJT negotiation. Part 3, OJT agreement development. Part 4, OJT monthly progress report and invoice. Okay, so let's talk about part 1 for a minute. So the negotiator will work with it, try to find a business or a trainer and negotiate the OJT agreement on behalf of the consumer and DOR. And that person is usually someone like Marcel and or myself. And then a co-op such as mental health can do this as well, or vendor and community rehab program, possibly you guys. So we are doing this together. Okay. Part 1, OJT opportunity and pre-screen continue. Step 1, the negotiator, i.e. the business specialist, establish opportunity with a business. Step 2, select appropriate consumers for specific OJT. Step 3, the business or trainer interviews the selected consumers that we offer up, and the business or the trainer decides on one. Pretty straightforward. And it's not moving. There we go. Marcel, you want to take this?
All right, thank you, Diana. Yeah, so this is the part 2 of it. We're gonna kind of talk about a little bit about the OJT, what the agreement is. The agreement goes with. It's a 3-way non-binding agreement. It can be terminated by any party at any time. The length of the agreement varies, but it's usually 3 months or less. DOR provides the OJT funding to the business to offset the training-related expenses. The consumer, the job seeker, is an employee of the business, though, on day 1. So they are eligible for the wages, all the what they receive as workers' comp, and everything that goes in with being hired from that business. Next slide. The general terms of the OJT have certain things in them. How much the wages are going to be. Usually the wages are kind of customary to what the position is. Also, the training period and the work hours. Is there going to be lunch breaks? Is it a 4-hour day? Is it a 5-6-hour day? Is it 3 days a week? All that gets put in the negotiation and put in the OJT agreement. Also, the instruction and supervision information needs to be in there. Who will be supervising the individual? It may not just be the owner of a company, it could be their manager or one of their co-workers. So we want to make sure we have the right person who's going to be doing mainly all the instructions. The skills to be learned are also in the OJT agreement, and they're usually up to 6 tasks. So, they can be anywhere from being like can be from customer service to organizing. I'm just throwing things out there, to maybe doing data entry. If it's an office work, those are skills that can be in the OJT. And then the last one is a reasonable accommodations. For example, if they would need, for example, support on the job, and then they may need job coaching or support, that would be in the agreement, and that would be part of the agreement between the business would understand that, and that would be signed. Next slide. The negotiator of the business or the business specialist obtains this information. We need all this information. For example, the business contact information will be on there. The job title of the position. So say if it's an office clerk, we have to put that on there. How much the person would be getting paid. For example, the office clerk would be a position of maybe $20 an hour. Then we list the skills and tasks that the individual will be learning on the job, and that could be anywhere from data entry, customer service, Microsoft. Maybe it's a specific skill like learning Microsoft Excel. They know a little bit, but that could be part of the skill tasks. Then also the number of training hours that are needed will be on there also. And then, of course, the work hours, if there's any kind of lunch and breaks, if they're working, say, for example, more than 4 to 5 hours, they would need a break. And when are those times going to be? Those are all on the OJT agreement. Next slide. So the main thing is to know is the terms of when we do our negotiations, we want to know how long the training period is going to be. It's typically less than 3 months. Sometimes it can be a month, sometimes it can be 2, but it's less than 3 months. And the amount of the OJT funding, how much are we going to reimburse the owner or the business on a monthly basis? And usually it's around $5,000 total. We usually do around $5,000 total, less than. But it's all negotiable. And now this is back to Diana with the forms.
Okay. We have 3 forms from OJT, but there's actually a 4th document which we will address shortly. So this is under the umbrella of Part 3 OJT Agreement Development. So form number 1, STD 204, it is called Pay Data Record. This has to be filled out by the employer. I spoke about the federal FEIN or the state level for, maybe social or state ID type of thing that the owner has to put on the form so that we could submit it to our accounting department and get approval. And the document itself has to be exactly what the business license or whatever they're known for, and not, for example, if it's Inc., it's not company. If it's not, so because it would throw people off, or people meaning accounting. So it has to be precise. So any deviation thereof, it's going to come back to the to me and to the business owners that have to fill it out. I laugh a little bit because I am going through something with one of my OJT employer, and we've been back and forth trying to get that situated. So anyway, the other form that Marcel had alluded to was the DR 247 on the job training agreement, letter agreement. You will see it shortly. So that has to be planned out. That has to be in black and white, and it has to be signed and everything. So DR 226, it's a report of progress in training. So every month that the consumer is on the job, the owner has to fill out, or the trainer, I should say, has to fill out the form saying, did the consumer show up on time? Did that person have a good attitude? How much they're learning? And there's actually like a progress report, like like if you have children or when you go into school, you're like a report card type of thing. So that has to be submitted monthly. And then the fourth form is not a form per se, so it is indeed the invoice. So whatever that we negotiated and agreed upon, they have to put it on an invoice. When the day comes that we are actually doing one, you can let us know. We can, make sure that you do it. You let the employer know exactly what a sample. I have samples that you can show it to them to include. So let's take a look at the forms now. The first one is the SDD 204 pay data record. This is still under OJT agreement development. So there is a picture of it. I know you can't see it, but it is essentially, it's one of those fillable PDFs. So the employer does not have to write it by hand. Again, it has to be exactly what it is. I have the OJT employer that I'm helping right now, the city, that he's in, he said, I get mail there, but it's 2 different cities for people that does not live there. So that is not allowed. So it has to be precise. So the EIN number or FEIN number or social security number, it's all it's right here that that can fill it out. Okay. Part 3, OJT agreement development continued. So business specialist or the negotiator will be doing the DR 247, the OJT letter of agreement. And this is a agreement that will be signed by the counselor eventually, but the business and the consumers will sign first and all that. And here is a tiny print of what a DR 247 looks like. This is page 1, basic information about the employer and the consumer. And this was the information that needs to be filled out that Marcel talked about. Like the training curriculum, there's up to 6 tasks that they can train them on. Again, this is entry-level position, so it's not a PhD type of situation. So the hours, the break, if there's any, the days of the week they will be working, etc. And then accommodation, if there's any, and the consumer will sign below, and then the trainer or the business will sign there. Everything has to be signed and dated. And then when all that is done, they send it back to us, and then we'll have the counselor sign it, and then it's ready to go. So all this takes time, so kind of plan it ahead. So if they want something done tomorrow, it cannot be done. So it's usually, a few weeks ahead. So there's one more form from DOR. It is the monthly progress report. This is still under OJT agreement development. It's DR 226 report of progress in training. So the business owner or trainer or the manager whomever is training this consumer has to fill out this form, and this will be sent out ahead of time to the company, and then the marking, it's pretty self-explanatory which days they show up or didn't show up, and give them a grade as to how they're progressing, etc. And then they sign and date it down below. It doesn't have the word date, but then I always suggest that the employer date it so that there's no ifs and buts about it. So let's see. Okay, Marcel, this is yours.
Okay, yeah, so thank you, Dinah. So you saw that monthly progress report that is filled out monthly. We take that in, or we take that into the business, and that gives us our progress on the individual, and we kind of check in to see how things are going on that monthly basis. And so that's very important because it will obviously tell if the person's been absent. We fill that in also, and it gives you a report about, for example, how well they did. Was there any problems on the job? Every month there's that, so you have a good discussion with the business. And then we also, on a daily, basically the business specialist also, we closely monitor the training's progress by staying in contact with the consumer. We do that maybe twice a week or twice a month, excuse me, to see how they're doing on the job, and also with the business, just to make sure everything is going. So we are really closely monitoring this on the job training when it goes. The next slide. Okay, this is really important. I think it's important. Part of it is, yes, you can do OJT and job coaching at the same time. So that's something that we can do. So if we do find an OJT opportunity and the individual may need supportive services like job coaching, we can provide that while we're doing the OJT at the same time. So the goal of the OJT is to provide hands-on training leading to a direct placement where the employer trains the individual and maintains a vested interest in the training process. This training investment demonstrates that the individual's ability and can lead to long-term individual placement. And that's our hope and our goal when we work with these businesses. And I do want to point out this for job coaching. Yes, good point. I see your question. The job coaching. So I know with supportive employment, for example, regional center, we may have an individual in a supportive employment program. You can still do that program with the OJT as long as we talk to the business and let them know that it's going to be geared toward that job coaching is going to be tailored and kind of tapered off and slowly hours wise, but you can do it with that. So to answer your question, it's usually 3 months or less for the job coaching, but for some circumstances, if it's an individual that may need support for the life of the case, for example, you can still do that and get that OJT, but the OJT is not going to be continuing all throughout the life. It only goes for up to like the first 3 months, if that makes sense. And next slide. And this is our contact information. I'm on the left, Dinah's on the right. Please email us. Just to give you a good example, we work with a lot of small businesses and also our job seekers. Where do we get our OJT opportunities? We get them a lot from our job seekers. I think Lorenzo Poe had a great example. A lot of the for his students, the same thing. We'll get a lot of our job seekers may have family or friends or connections, and that's how. And it's their own little network circle that we have found to help find them a placement. Then we can also find them to talk about on the job training.
Supported employment is just one of the different services that we offer. This type of service is very unique in a sense that it is offered to our consumers who are actually regional center clients. You'll know more about that later as we go along and what the requirements are in order to be able to receive supported employment services. So what is a supported employment? Okay, we'll define that today. What would be the definition of what it would look like? What type of work are we looking for with supported employment? What is integrated setting? You'll see that later. And I will also go through briefly what the referral process is and what the referral packet should look like once we are ready to move on with supported employment. So what is supported employment? So this is a service that assists a DOR consumer to prepare for, obtain, and retain advancement employment. Okay, at the end of the day, the main goal is for the individual to find a placement, employment, a job. Okay, who qualifies for supported employment? Like I said earlier, this is open to regional center clients. Okay, the client or the individual should have been identified as ready for competitive integrated employment and individual placement. The individual should require ongoing support services. Individuals who were determined to be to have the most significant disabilities. Individuals who, in the past have tried looking for a job, tried to look for a job on their own or with traditional employment services, but competitive employment has not traditionally occurred for them, or it has been interrupted, or it hasn't been stable. And because they did not receive the ongoing support services that supported employment actually does provide in order for them to retain the job. And the main thing that makes supported employment services a unique service is that individuals who are in this program, will be receiving job coaching supports. What is individual placement? A consumer placed individually on a job site with support. The idea is the support will be there, but we will be fading out the support as the individual gains the job skills and stabilizes on the job. The individual placement should at least be at a minimum wage or more, ideally more, but at least minimum wage. And it meets the definition of competitive integrated employment in every setting. So what does it look like for the referral process? So what happens next? Okay, so you have an individual, you work with an individual or a family, and they decided school is not for me. I want to go and find employment at this point. So the employment seeker would then request for work, right? And say, I want to go and be out in the field looking for a job. The individual would then reach out to the regional center service worker, okay, and then, make that intention known. Once the family, the employment seeker, and the regional center service worker determines that supported employment is the best and most appropriate service, the IPP will be updated, or the IPP should be amended in order to show that the individual is ready for supported employment. The next step would be, service worker or any service provider would then discuss the pros, the positives and the negatives of work with the consumer or their parents or their caregiver. If after that consultation, they still want to proceed with employment, and then we go to the next step. The service worker then from the regional center will send a referral to a supported employment vendor. We work with a few supported employment vendors in the area. We can provide that list of vendors to any service coordinator on this meeting, maybe in a separate email. That way you will all have a list of that. And then what do we need to see? So once the referral is made, so service worker will be calling the supported employment vendors and seek if they have availability, if they can take an individual. The supported employment vendor will then help and assist with completing a referral packet. A referral packet must include a copy of the IPP, the CDR, any annual reviews available, anything available for medical, psychiatric, or psychological evaluations, any social assessments available should also be attached, and most importantly, a signed DS 1968. This is a DOR form that says, that shows that the service worker and the family agrees to the referral for employment services, and that we need to get that form signed for both parties. I mean, we need 2 signatures: the service worker from the regional center and the individual, or if they are the conservator. Now, once the packet is completed, the supported employment vendor then contacts the DOR liaison counselor to open the DOR case for services. Once that's completed, the supported employment vendor then sends the referral packet to us. We have several counselors here who are assigned as direct liaisons for specific vendors. So I, for one, work with a specific, I work with 2 different vendors. They send me the packet. And then after I receive the packet, I will call the individual or the family and set up an intake. We then complete opening the case. And once we complete the case, we identify, what the job placement parameters are, what's the employment goal, the job readiness of the individual. And then once I have identified that, I will then start writing out the individualized plan for employment, the IPE. Once the IPE is signed, then we notify the consumer and the service coordinator, and also the service provider, and we will start authorizing services. So what are the services that we provide for supported employment? We provide what is traditionally offered in employment services. So we offer job preparation, job development and placement, funding, and the most important thing is the job coaching piece of it. So job coaching services for supported employment. Traditionally, for an employment services plan, we can only provide up to 3 months of short-term support. But if the individual needs more than that, that's what makes supported employment special. We can provide up to, regularly, we can provide up to 6 months. If there's a need for more than 6 months, then we can bring that for review, but we can provide supported employment services up to a year. Okay, so the idea of job coaching though is that we will have to fade out the supports. Okay, and once we fade out the supports and the transition requirements are met, we then transition the extended services funding back to the regional center. Alrighty, so who do we work with currently? We work with these, and we have more agencies who are vendorized for supported employment vendors, but specifically for this office, we work with these vendors on the list. We can provide that list to the service coordinators if needed. Just to summarize, this is what a referral packet would look like. We will need the signed DS 1968 form, a copy of the IPP, any annual reviews, so on and so forth. And we will be more than happy to share the list with everyone who needs it moving forward.